record. I'm recording. All right.
Okay.
So are we live?
I don't know. Oh, go live? Do I need, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, it's flipping.
Right. Great. Okay. So welcome to this live stream entitled The Sneaky Tricks the OTAs Are Playing on You and How to Spot Them and How to Avoid Them as well, with myself, Yvonne, and my colleague, Marie Davies. Just for those of you who don't know who we are, I'm Yvonne Halling, as I said, and I'm the creator of the Bed and Breakfast Owners Group. And I'm also the creator and founder of bedandbreakfastcoach.com, where we help clients just like you to add at least 25% to your income in one season while having more confidence, having more fun, paying less commissions, and taking more time off with less stress. So I've been doing this for the last almost 7 years now, and Marie joined us about 2 years ago now. And Marie helps clients alongside me. We coach together and we help clients create the results that they want to create. So today's live stream is really about the kind of recent developments that we've noticed with the online travel agents and what they're doing, because as we all know, they've been slapped on the wrist for their making false claims and promoting false discounts and generally being a little bit underhand. But we're not going to make them the enemy. We're just going to work with them and just keep up with what they're doing, and just so that we can be savvy and smart with how we're using them and not at the mercy of them. So I'm really going to hand this live stream over to Marie this time, because she's the one who has the bed and breakfast. She still runs her B&B, which she'll introduce to you in a second. And Marie is really on it with the OTA. So Marie, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to share with us today?
I'm Marie Davies. I've been running Lehman House Bed and Breakfast now this is my 30th year. August 5th will be 30 years. And I'm in St. Louis, Missouri in the US. And I've had 2 experiences with Booking.com that I've found to be sneaky. And there's 2 of the same experience. There's a second tactic that they're using that sort of ties in that I'm hearing with some of the rest of you. And I've had an overall good experience with Booking.com. I use them as a marketing tool. They get me the people in. I wow them with the guest experience. They become my guests. It's a happy thing. I've had good customer service, and since I tightened my policies, terms, conditions, cancellation policies, I've had really good guests from them. So I don't have a complaint in general. It's just a sneaky practice that cropped up about 7 months ago. In November, a guest tried to cancel inside my cancellation policy, where she was responsible for the full amount of the booking, and she wanted to cancel, and I said, I can't do that, you have to cancel with them. And off she goes. She comes back and says, they said I have to cancel with you. No, that's not what my contract says. I send her back to them. They call me, and he says the guest would like to cancel and wants your permission. And I said, I can't give it, you do. But she wants to know if they can cancel, and we go back and forth about 4 times, and I finally said, if she wants to cancel, that's between you and her. If she wants to cancel for free, that is between me and her, and the answer to that is no. He laughs and says, oh well, it was worth a try anyway, thank you, and hangs up.
So just let me recap, just let me get that straight. So basically, if the guest wants to cancel, they have to cancel with Booking.com in this case, the OTA in this case, because the contract between the guest and the reservation, if you like, is with them. It's not with you, right?
Correct.
But
what my contract with Booking says I cannot cancel a guest, or I am responsible for finding alternative accommodations, paying to get them there if needed, and if it costs more money, I have to pay that difference. That's what my contract with them says.
Right. And who set up that contract? Did you set that contract up, or did they set that with you?
They did.
They did. Okay. But did you have a say in how that was set up, or was that their standard contract that they give to everybody?
I believe it was standard. I didn't know enough at the time to negotiate that, but at the same time, if you take credit cards, it's a similar contract. So I didn't challenge it because I've already been familiar with that.
Right. Great. Okay. So the contract, when they book through booking.com or any other OTA, the guest has an obligation with the OTA and they have an obligation with the guest. It's got nothing to do with you at this stage, right? So why was he calling you?
He was tricking me into saying, yes, the guest can cancel. What he left off was, and get a full refund. And I suspect they would have recorded me saying, yes, the guest can cancel, and then use that to hold me hostage to refunding this guest's money. And in her case, it was $700-800.
Oh, wow.
I was more worried they were trying to get me, she wanted to book somewhere else and wanted me to pay for it. That's where I was going, where I just refused to say yes to the cancellation issue. But it's a crime by omission, in my opinion. They left out that critical piece of they wanted my permission to cancel with a full refund, is what the real question was. They left off the refund half.
Right. Okay. So that was a bit sneaky then, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. About $800 worth.
Yeah. And an unsuspecting host would say yes, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
then they would be trapped into losing,
yes.
in your case, $800.
Yes.
All right.
So, and a footnote to that one, she didn't show up, and she had a myriad of reasons why she couldn't come. And every time I said no, it would escalate. But in the end, she didn't come, and there was no chargeback. So fast forward to last week, I get a guest due in. The call came on Monday. They were due in this past Friday. The guest wanted to cancel. Same scenario. He says, I want to cancel. I said, you have to cancel with booking. They said, I have to cancel with you. And I said, my contract says you have to cancel with them. I don't have that power. And if I say yes, a lot of bad and expensive things will happen to me, and I'm not willing to accept that. You have to cancel with them. And back and forth and back and forth. And I said, I don't know who you talk to, and perhaps they're very new and don't understand our respective contracts, but I cannot cancel you. You can only cancel through them. That's your contract is with them. And he said, oh, no, there's a button on my reservation thing that says, if you want a full refund from the host, you have to call the host. And I said, well, that's a different conversation. And the answer to that conversation is no, I don't give full refunds unless I can rebook over the rooms, which is an unpublished policy, but I was trying to make nice with this man. And I said, you ultimately have to cancel with them. And I said, in any case, a refund is premature. You haven't canceled yet. And this guy never did cancel. And I don't remember if the other woman did cancel or not, but he never did cancel. And I waited till midnight on Friday night. They were a no-show, marked them as a no-show. So I couldn't rebook the rooms. And so he lost his opportunity to get any kind of a refund. And again, it's only been a week, but I haven't gotten a charge back on that one either.
So
I screenshotted.
You charged the card in line with your policies.
Right. In his case, I had only charged 50%. And that's why I said, if I can rent at least 2 of your nights, well, I'll break even, and anything after that, I can refund to you. And
but he never canceled.
He never canceled. So I couldn't do anything. And so when he didn't cancel by the end of that same evening, I went ahead and charged the balance of his card because he was way in. I had neglected to do it when I should have. So I went ahead and ran it through. It cleared. And so I got paid for the whole booking at the moment. But he was a no-show, and I marked him as such. And I was not, in all honesty, able to rebook any of the nights that he had canceled. So
no, but you were well within your cancellation policies, which are published.
Which I screenshotted, and I screenshotted at 11:59, and you can see the clock on my computer that it showed still had a valid reservation. It was marked okay. I screenshotted his cancellation policy, which was a total no refund from the moment he booked, actually. So I should have charged the whole amount up front. So I screenshotted all that in case there is a chargeback. But we're back to I think they're told not to say the part about I want to cancel with a full refund. They just want a permission to cancel. And that's the sneaky part. But again, I was worried that he had found alternative accommodations and if I had canceled, he would have booked those more expensive ones, and then I was liable to pay.
You would have had to pay, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody has any questions, please pop them down below. We want to get you into the conversation as well on your experience with this as well. This is really an informational video. This is not complaining about the OTAs. We're just highlighting what can happen if you're not on your toes about this, if you don't understand, and you might get trapped into losing out your bookings and some money as well. So Marie is kindly sharing with us her experience. So anyway, do go on.
Well, just a couple of other bits of information that I got. The part about them double booking, opening rooms up that you've blocked out, it's all goes to the numbers. It's a lot of why they don't clear credit cards, but I don't. I set mine to not take the reservation if the credit card isn't valid. It's all about the numbers that they can show their shareholders. I actually had the rep that is assigned to me in the US here say, why can't they screen these cards? Well, because they want as many bookings to show
and they don't care whether they're genuine or not. And that's
no.
a really good point, because I think we've talked about this before. If I think it was on our private calls, or maybe I've done it on Facebook before, but we've talked about this before. What we have to understand, all of us who are involved with the online travel agencies, is their priority. And their priority is to shoot as many bookings as possible through their system, whether they're valid or not, whether they're cancelled or not, whether they follow through or not, or whether the card is valid or not, it doesn't matter. They just want to show the number of bookings. And as you said, this is what you got straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
They're only interested in the numbers, because it's the numbers that keep the shareholder confidence, and therefore the shareholders leave their money in the company, because they've got millions of shareholders, I'm sure, who've invested money in this platform and are getting a good return on it as long as the confidence is upheld. That's how stocks and shares work, right? So they don't care about the cancellations, they don't care about the invalid credit cards, and they don't care about if you lose out, because they're only interested in the numbers, the number of bookings that they shoot through that platform. So we have to be really careful about not falling foul to what they're doing to keep those numbers up. And that's really what we're talking about today. How do we stay ahead, and how do we spot what they're doing and prepare ourselves so that we don't fall into their trap, so that they keep their numbers big and you lose out.
Right, and since when I first went on with them, I had an extremely high number of invalid credit cards, and so eventually I switched to a very strict cancellation policy where they have to pay 50% upfront at the time of booking, and that is non-refundable. The remaining 50% is due 14 days out. In the case of the last week reservation, I let that slip through the cracks, but when I went to that, sure, my bookings dropped, but it weeded all the bad ones out. People are using prepaid debit cards with just a few dollars on them to get the booking, and then you can't. But if you wait till they don't show up and you try to run a card, you're going to be left holding an empty room with no money. By making it non-refundable at the point of booking, I run their card, and then I can find out. And since I've gone to this, I get no more invalid credit cards with them than I do direct bookings, which is next to zero. So that would be my first advice to you, is change your policy. Do not be afraid to go up against them. They are working for you. I have hired Booking.com to market initially to get that guest in the door. I wow them with my version of a guest experience, the history of my home, the food, all of it. I convert them. I had 2 of my 6 rooms this weekend were former Booking.com guests that now book directly with me. So it is a marketing tool to get, I know. I see them strictly as I have hired them to market for me one time, and then it's up to me. Now, if I don't click with the guest, I don't try to get them to come back. But if I click with the guest, when they leave as they're leaving. Oh, we loved it. We'll be back. And I said, that's great. Book direct, because the commission I pay to them, I would rather give to you in the form of a discount. And because I use a channel manager that adds 10% to a booking.com reservation, by giving that 10% to the guest, I'm still getting my full room rate.
Yeah.
And they feel good about that.
It's a win-win for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, because nobody wants to be ripped off, and nobody wants to lose out, and it's important that no one does. So if you feel like you're losing out with the online travel agents, you have to really examine at what point are you losing out, and how can you remedy that so that you're not, and your guests aren't losing out as well. Because we all know that if you're feeling in any way resentful about how you're having to pay commissions to online travel agents, that is going to filter through in your energy to your guest experience. Yeah. And conversely, if your guests are booked direct with you and you haven't had to pay any commission for that booking, you're going to feel a whole lot better about that guest, and that also will transmit to your guest experience. So we want to be looking for the win-win. So if you feel resentful because you are using the online booking systems, identify where that resentment is coming from and remedy it if you can.
Yeah. So don't ever be afraid of them. What are they going to do? They're not going to kick you out. Airbnb might, but booking.com isn't. They're not going to kick you out of their system. The other piece that they show shareholders is the millions of hosts that they have. So they're not going to, they may, I've been threatened once, I forget what I did, but they said, well, we're going to put you at the bottom of our rankings. I said, fine, shoot yourself in the foot. That's okay with me. It opens the door for more direct bookings. And the person on the other end of the phone just went silent. And nothing came of it, But so always see them as you have hired them. You do not work for them. You have hired them, and never vary from that position, because you're the one in control of your business, your policies. You've just simply hired a marketing company to put your name out there. And the more you can establish direct bookings, the better off you're going. February was my best February in 30 years. Exactly one reservation, one night, was a booking.com guest. Everything else was direct bookings. I paid a whopping $22 in commission for the month of February, but it was my biggest month in 30. Sorry about that.
I love that. Your best February in 30 years with one room, $20 to booking.com. Yay.
Right.
Yay.
So that's what I've been working towards since working with Yvonne. Actually, it's been 3.5 years.
Has it really?
But in those 3.5 years, I have consistently broken record every year, at least 2 months. 1 year it was 5 months out of the year I broke almost 30-year-old records in that amount of time. I am on track again to do it this year, because I've learned the marketing strategies to get my own. And again, I have been, except for these little tricky things that left a bad taste in my mouth, I've had a great experience with booking.com. It's not about don't ever use them, but use them wisely, and you stay in control. And don't ever back down from that position. Those reps on the phone get it. They understand what their bosses, their head, people are all about. They're more like us than like them. But when that guy laughed and said, "Oh, well, it was worth a try," I mean, that was a clue.
That just says everything, doesn't it? Just says everything. I mean, goodness, how long can they carry on like that? I mean, people are waking up to this nonsense.
Yeah. So don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of the bad review. I was waiting for this guy, and he may still do it, to give a bad review. I will spin it to say, I understand you're upset at losing your reservation money, but you booked a non-refundable rate, and all I did was I held the room for you. You didn't come. I enforced my policy, as I have always done and will always do. Use it to inform the people coming after. If there are people who don't want to go by the rules, they'll book some other place that will let them off the hook. You only want the people that will abide by your policies and embrace
respect you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
So do not be afraid of the bad review. I don't get them often, but when I get them, I have fun with them because it's a teaching moment to everybody else that reads it.
Exactly. You're not really, that's another thing. You're not really writing the reply for the person who's written the review. You're writing the reply for everyone else who's going to be reading it to see what you're made of.
Yeah.
So let them know in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, I always start off with something positive. I'm glad you enjoyed the blank, but I understand why you were unhappy about not being able to check in at noon, not being able to check out, and wanting to check out at 3, but I insisted you check out at 11. Whatever, and it's usually because they didn't get their way. It's not because anything here was not
different,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's always because they didn't get their way with breaking one of my policies, whether it's check in, check out, whatever the policy. That's when I get a bad review, is I've enforced it and they didn't like it. And so I use those as a teaching moment.
Okay, we're here. Stuart, we're here. If you can see me in the group, he's asking if we've started. So I'm just sending him a little note. Yeah.
It says live on my thing.
Yeah, we're live on Facebook. Yeah, I can see us in Facebook on my iPad. So you pressed all the right buttons, dear. My dear. Technology, isn't it wonderful?
When it works. Yeah.
When it works. Absolutely, good point.
So whether you're with Booking, I was briefly with Expedia, had a very bad series of experiences, lasted maybe 3 months with them and never looked back. I'm on Airbnb only. Wanting to check out at 3,
hold on a second.
Insisted you check out at 11.
Let me get rid of this.
Whatever, and it's usually because they.
Right, I'm just.
Was not different.
When it was. Oh gosh, why can't I shut off this?
So whether you're with Booking,
how do I get rid of the
Expedia had a very bad.
Okay, I've shut my iPad down.
Okay. What I was going to say.
Yes,
once, not twice. Whatever the OTA you use, remember, you have hired them to do nothing more than market and get somebody to your door. You take over from there. You wow them. You get their contact information. They don't get to sign in without giving me an email. I know I don't get a real email from Booking, but they don't leave here before I get a real email out of them, if I want them to come back, that is. And there are some people where we just don't click, and I let them go on their way. You've hired them to market, and you are the one in control. You are the boss. They are not the boss. So whatever threats they make about demoting you on the list of what shows up or whatever they want to threaten you with, I just say, fine, knock yourself out. I've got other ways to get people to my door if you don't want to play nice with me. And so I am not afraid of them. And it's all done nicely, respectfully. I just state my case. And so far, so good. So use them if you want to, use them if you think you have to, but just do not be afraid. And I really disagree with the have to part, I think. But I've been around a long time. If you're new starting out, I get why you want to get traffic in the door quickly, and that is a way to do it. But never lose sight of the fact that you own your business. They don't own you.
Right. So. Right. Yeah, because if you're, I mean, the thing is, if you're established and you've been using them, years and years and years, and you still can't find a way to get off them, then you definitely need a new strategy. Because your job in your business, as the owner of your business, is to build your own database, not theirs.
Right.
Because every guest that comes through their doors, through their reservation system into your property is on their database, and you've got to get them on yours. And then you have to maintain that database, nurture it and feed it, so that when you want to communicate with your past, present and future, then you are in control and you're not totally reliant on them. And that's a terrible place to be in year after year after year. Your job is to build your own database. And if you're not doing that, then you definitely need some help. So hit me up if you want to talk about that, because that's one of the things that we focus very much on in our coaching and mentoring program. So many people that I speak to, I mean, even to this day, do not understand the power of having their own database. Can you say anything about that, Marie?
Well, I've got close to 2,000 in my database. Here's an example that was a couple weeks ago. I did a free little mini cookbook. I put it out to my past guests. That kept me in contact with them, and it generated 12, I got another one last night, 12 room nights and just over $3,000 in business. And all I did was give away something for free that I was giving away anyway. Guests would want my quiche recipe or that coffee cake. And so I finally made a little ebook per Yvonne's suggestions, instructions, and help, and launched that about 2 weeks ago. And then I had that success with my past database, and then I put it on Facebook. I collected almost 40 to 50 new contacts that are now in my database that I didn't have before.
Right.
So I've got these little free things out there.
Like soldiers, like little soldiers,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And they're collecting new people for me that haven't stayed, but I continue to reach out to them with an offer or information or whatever, and they eventually will book.
And, yeah, I mean, it's a simple strategy. But it's not easy to do because there are lots of moving parts to it. But once you've got it set up, and right, there's a lot of moving parts because it's not just a case of handing out something for free. There's a strategy behind it. Everything has got a purpose. All of your marketing should have a purpose, right? It's not random. We do nothing that is random, all right? It's all going towards the booking button, all of it. But in roundabout ways, in circuitous routes, in ways that build relationships and goodwill and trust with your people, not ways that knock them over the head with an offer after an offer after an offer, and your newsletters that don't really build any emotional connection. That's not what we do here. We focus on building the trust and goodwill so that when Marie has got something like that, her people are receptive. They're loving it. They're wanting to hear from her, and they're loving what she's created, and they respond with their bookings, and that's how it should work. But I'm willing to bet that if you're watching this live now, that you have got this in your head as well. You have got this content, you've got this value, but you don't have the mechanism or the strategy to get it out there and turn it into bookings for you. I'm willing to bet that that's what's going on. And you're not alone. I mean, this happens to a lot of people, and almost everybody who comes into our program does not understand the concept of online marketing. And
not that many people are doing it. I know I'm in a major city. None of the traditionally run bed and breakfasts are doing anything like this. And I've risen to the top, and some have quit. We've lost several because they just gave up, and the others are holding their own, but where I keep increasing year after year after year. So,
despite over 2,000 Airbnbs moving in.
Yes.
So I'm sorry I can't answer your questions or your comments because I just shut my iPad down because it was.
Oh, let me see if I can get on the phone.
Can you see anything? Because you're in charge of this live stream. So let me have your questions on any sneaky tricks. If you have anything to share with us that you can share with the group as well, we'd love to know what you've experienced with them. Not from a perspective of complaining, but just from a perspective of understanding what they do and how they do it, and how we can get more savvy and help each other to run businesses our way. Something else I was going to say there, it's gone completely out of my head. Just about the database. I mean, I just can't stress how important that is. Yes, I know what I was going to say, because the other day, I think it was Jane Sprules who posted in the group. She'd listened to a recording that I did with somebody else. I was a guest on somebody else's radio show last week, and what I said on that radio show, and I think there's a link to it somewhere in the group, or it's somewhere on my personal profile. What I said is that the industry is really at a crossroads right now. Because, the old is gone now. We're never going back to hanging a sign outside. We're never going back to that. The old is well and truly gone. And the new is, hasn't been that great for many owners up to now. There's been a lot of, you know, competition in the form of Airbnb swooping in and opening lots of places to rent, you know, often illegally, unregulated, under the radar, not paying taxes and all of that. That's all happened. And then booking.com, you know, they've had a fair crack of the whip as well. They've had a fair run at it. And now we're at this place where there is a big opportunity right now for B&B owners, whether you're new or established, to step up and put something in now, to learn new skills and to make a comeback, really, with the knowledge of online marketing, with the knowledge of how the internet works and how to get bookings from the internet in an authentic and ethical and integrous way. Not by knocking people over the head with a newsletter and say, buy my rooms, buy my stuff, book my rooms. We don't do that. We do it in a much gentler and more integrous way, ethically authentic way, really. So if you're ready for that, then, you know, let us know. Send me a private message or drop me a comment below and get in touch, because there is a big opportunity right now. It's gaping. It's a gaping hole, and I reckon it's going to be around for not very long, maybe another 2 years, for traditional and new B&Bs to step into the internet marketing arena and use the strategies that I learned from outside of the industry. I think this is key, because what we do, it's not something you'll learn in the industry. It's not something you'll learn from your local B&B association, because they don't know how to do this. I learned this stuff outside of the industry, put it to work in my B&B, and it took off like a rocket, and it's still working today, as Marie has just demonstrated. And that's just one strategy. That's just one way to get guests. There are many other ways.
Yeah, and it's, there's no one secret, no magic bullet, we say here. It's what I call my shotgun approach, is I've got a variety of strategies based on what I've learned from Yvonne. And I was in the old, 1989, there were 3 of us running a bed and breakfast here, and you waited for the phone to ring, or you got a piece of mail wanting a room, and you wrote back, and and I resisted the whole, I went on directories when they first popped up in the mid 90s, I guess. Anything that was cheap or free, I signed on to, immediately got reservations from Europe, which was, you just didn't get before until they got to this country.
Right.
But I resisted anything beyond that. I thought, because I'd been around so long, I knew it all, but where I hit a plateau of just treading water, and I tried a bunch of different things, nothing worked. And finally, I had not tried what Yvonne offered. And I don't know, I watched her for years, and then I finally, okay, I need to do something very different here. I just don't know what. I just know I need to do it, or I should just close my doors. And I did.
And that's what's happening, right? And that's what's happening to many others, isn't it?
We lost 3 in my immediate area just last year because they just got fed up and weren't willing. They weren't hungry. Yeah, they weren't willing.
No. And that happens too. Sometimes it's just they've just reached the end of the end of the road with it, and they don't have the motivation or the energy, to try something new, to do something new.
Yeah, and I think in the 2 ones I was closest to, that was where they were at the end of their tether, and it's like, no, I'm done. And one retired, one sold out, and they didn't want it badly, and because they knew I was taking some course, they knew I was doing something, but they never inquired beyond, that. And so that was a clue that they weren't, and that's okay. That's where they were. I love what I do still. And I just want to keep growing and enhancing what I have to offer here. So.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. So I'm sorry I can't see your questions. Send me a message or put a link in the comments. If you have anything to share about what the OTAs are doing, or you have any questions to ask, then put a link below. And if you want to get in touch with me and find out more about what we do here at Bed and Breakfast Coach, how we can help you to add at least 25% to your revenue in this season, and have you working less, having more fun, being more confident, welcoming guests that you want to welcome, and dealing with the sneaky tricks of the OTAs on your terms, then send me a private message or just drop me a message below. If you're watching on the replay, then just do #replay so that I can come back and answer your questions too. And I hope this has been useful for you. And Marie, have you got anything else you want to add?
No, that's good. Yeah,
Great.
just we'll answer your questions. So
Sure.
just let us know what. Yeah, and again, we apologize. I've been playing with buttons and I still can't find it. So.
All right. Thanks very much for your time, Marie. Speak to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
You're welcome. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.